I'm so happy to share this with you today. And I hope this offering resonates with you because that is where it's coming from. This is about redefining relationships and exploring different ways. And so for some people, this is going to be life changing because you've felt wanting this deeper connection and this freedom to love and bring your love out into the world and finding a way to do that through conscious relationship. This should just really help out articulating things. So the first thing I want to talk about is this idea. So Chelsea and I, my last relationship was about relationships, and we discovered this term relationships together, and we processed through getting rid of and detaching from a lot of the stories and the narratives that are playing out. So you may be part of the narratives that are okay to be helpful, but also can drag us into using our analytical mind. Things like soulmates and the feminine and the masculine, what a spiritual man looks like, what a spiritual woman should look like, and many other categories. If you go under Reddit, you can see that that's what they're constantly asking is like, how should a woman be? How should a man be? And we can do the same thing when we get into the spiritual realm. Then we start just getting a little fancier with our terms. So this whole idea is about leaving the idea of shoulds and moving into coulds. And it's simply this, that as you go out and you're working on your shadow, integrating your shadow within you, the things that you have hidden or don't like about yourself, and integrating those things, what we're moving to is our authentic self and being our most authentic self in the world. And that's all shadow work is. And it can be complicated like anything else. And this is what Lensifarianism, Paradigm B, my messages are about, activating what's already resonating inside of you. So this isn't a lecture on what you should do in relationship, but this is an idea to explore for how to change your perspective going into and using relationship. And so the first idea is that this will get rid of the shoulds, meaning that, so the whole idea is, if I'm going to be in relationship and my whole mission is to find and integrate my whole authentic self and bring that out into the world, and within doing that, I'm also going to expand my consciousness, well, then I'm going to want the same thing for everybody else. And especially if I'm in an intimate relationship, I want that expansion. I want them to experience their authentic self. I don't want to use the relationship to should somebody into a relationship in order for me to get what I want and perhaps bypass my shadow, but I'd rather allow the circumstances of the relationship to show the shadow, have the ability to show the shadow, because that's what ends up happening in a relationship. Is, it can be great in the limerence stage right in the beginning, but then after a while, then circumstances start coming in where we need to look at our shadow. We're going to look at the things that we have to integrate. And so the whole idea is now going from relationship to this idea of alignmentship. So focusing the relationship on both people aligning their emotional guidance system within themselves, finding the harmony within that, the coherence, the frequencies, and staying with this. So the whole idea of an alignmentship is about balance and harmony in each individual. And so the act of being in an intimate relationship is going to allow circumstances to arise for people to integrate the shadow. And so the idea is that if we are looking at it as an alignmentship, if we're looking at it is as a consciousness elevation, an expansion, that's what we're actually going for. when we get tied up in these ideas of soulmates and what a woman should be and what a man should be and all the different roles, we get stuck. We're just stuck in stories, and we will should all over our partners because they're not acting the way that this lady said that a man should act in the relationship, or a woman should act in the relationship. I don't know which way I got that one, but hopefully you got the point. So the idea is that we are looking to elevate our experience, because what ends up happening when we're integrating our shadow, if it's done properly, if we're integrating it properly, then what happens is an expansion, a lightness, and it was the process of love through it. So when we have to come face to face with an element of our shadow, that's what they would call the work. I don't think it should be called the work, because the outcome of it is it is sort of work. It is putting attention onto something, and it can be painful. And the reason it's painful is because we've been dragging out our suffering for so long and living in stories that we don't belong to, that when we meet that shadow side, then it's intense, because that's a lot of suffering that we have created in the backside. But when we become familiar with the idea of shadow work, what we should be experiencing, if we're doing it correctly, is an elevation in consciousness, and a clarity, a buoyancy, a higher frequency. These are things that people talk about all over the spiritual community, is about raising your vibration. And that's the whole idea, is it will be elevated. Why wouldn't it be? You're becoming more of your authentic self. So you're bringing more of the magic that you were meant to bring into this world. And so how does this work? Well, the element of circumstances within relationship and within just the personal self is that we are going to be in these high vibrational, states. And if you're interested in this, you're probably on some kind of conscious path where you understand that you're trying to keep your frequency and your vibration elevated. And there's a very tangible reason for doing that. And that is because you are seeing from the highest level that you can see. That's your highest clarity. But it is, and then we can get upset that that doesn't always happen. We don't hold that vibration. Well, that's the aspect of the journey. That's the aspect of integration, is the fact that we will contract into these other states. And the idea is that we, first of all, both partners really understand that this is what is going to be happening, that there is going to be a contraction and elevations. And when you're in an elevated state, what you're sharing with the other person is going to be cleaner. It's going to be with more perspective, because what is flowing, what is the thing that you want to be flowing in your life, is more and more love and compassion. And you want to have that for your partner. But now, let's say that your partner prickles something within you. It makes it a hell of a lot harder to do that. All of a sudden, we're contracted. And then we're not seeing from that love and compassion state. And it isn't a matter that we are like trying to bypass anything, or it's simply being aware. When we get contracted, that we understand both for ourselves. If we see that our partner is contracted, we understand that we're not getting the best and the most clear communication from them in those spaces. So this is a very good practice of finding practices within the relationship. I'm hoping this wind doesn't mess up the audio. So that when we're in relationship, we allow these contractions to happen. We allow, and this is where we offer grace to our partner. And this is where, when the whole idea is that understanding that there's going to be these contractions and these elevations. And the whole idea is that each individual is looking to get back to the point, because what we are focused on is having love and compassion through their curve offers through the painful things. And it always isn't like that, because that's what happens when we get contracted. We can't see through the other person and see the beauty that they're mirroring back for us. And that's just honest. Let's just be honest that this aspect happens when we get into a contracted state. So the whole idea, if you're both agreeing that buoyancy is how you want to see each other in these buoyant states, because what you will be able to say when you are in these buoyant states is you'll be able to see you'll have the love and compassion. It's not just going to be, I really love him, and then go on and on about what's wrong with him. That there's a lot of that in the spiritual community, is that we try to create a virtue signal that we love people, but in the truth, the only time that true love is happening is when we can sit in love and compassion and send it out and broadcast it. And those things we don't say in words. Those are things that we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest that we can't see that. We can't see that peace. And the element that gives us is that space, that understanding that whatever they're going through is perfect and aligned for what they're supposed to go through. And so it's my duty, if I am looking at it from being consciousness and expanding consciousness and getting back to that elevated state, I want to hold the highest perspective when I am contracted. That what I am going to experience, because you probably have experienced lots of these, is through the contraction, when the shadow works, do the shadow work, and then get to that elevated space, and then you'll be able to see from their point of view. You'll understand what's going on, what they're actually being pulled towards. You're going to have an amazing conversation from that point of view. And this is a really important element that goes along with this. With all the other things like looking for your soulmate or your twin flame, or the perfect man or spiritual man or this perfect woman, these are all come with shoulds. They're all coming with roles. And so here is a trick that you can get out of this. Get out of the rolling. Because what we are doing then is we are concluding that other person should be an image of whatever it was that I had in my last men's or women's group idea that somebody said. Oh, and then I compare what they are, and I start using that analytical mind. Get out of that. We are not looking for conclusions. We are looking for clarity. Get rid of conclusions. So this is easy to see, especially within the spiritual community, with all the ridiculous conversations and narratives about narcissism and codependency and all the different concepts. And then everybody's using that analytical mind to try to figure out, some kind of tethered path through the mind, not just getting rid of this other part of our life. And it's also just meant to impress our friends. It's to impress, like how great we are. It's a big virtue signaling. I was such a good person, and they were a narcissist. It was obvious that they had narcissistic problems. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I feel the heaviness of having traversed in those arenas, and I hope this perspective hits home for you. And I would love if these things articulate to you from you. Please reach out to connect with me either through DMing in the comments, or you can even go to my website and find my phone number and connect with me that way. I'd love to hear how people have seen these kind of things and how it has released you on your path. Because I know for me, relationships especially were a really big part of it. I just had a thing that I wanted to be in relationship, but I wanted this deeper aspect of the relationship. And I just, though, as soon as I would get frustrated and work it out. But what I realized is the minute that I stopped making conclusions about any kind of X or anything else, and I just let that clarity just blow through it. Anything that I needed to learn from those relationships was learned automatically. This is not something that I have to conceptualize. This whole idea of consciousness is about experience and getting away from being tied up with so many concepts. Concepts are beautiful and they do point us in certain directions. However, that it is just so easy to get into the shoulding world and allow the analytical mind, especially when the analytical mind and the linear kind of thinking. Another way we could even say this is that this is a new quantum way, because now we're detaching from a linear mindset, meaning that we're no longer even in the bounds of all the mental constructs that have been put together in the religious, spiritual, secular, all the different philosophies and everything else. We're allowing the authentic self to come out and play, and it does not need to know what it is. It can just be. So I hope that this was helpful. And again, I would love feedback on this.